Ukraine's allies are pledging to help Kiev for as long as it takes. Now, this follows extensive missile and drone strikes by Russia on multiple Ukrainian cities. The bombardment has targeted civilians and energy infrastructure. Ukraine says the strikes have killed at least 19 people. Leaders of the G7 group of nations have condemned the latest attacks as indiscriminate, and they're vowing to hold Russian President Vladimir Putin to account.
This scene is a reminder. War is still at their doorstep. People in Kiev taking shelter in a subway station. They were warned by air raid sirens, which have repeatedly sounded since the Russian barrage began on Monday.
It's terrorism. You understand that you are not safe at home, even if there's no infrastructure nearby. 2 walls and a basement will not save you.
Ukrainians have been working quickly to repair the damage. The Russians targeted power stations, but also playgrounds.
This can't be compared with anything. It's desperation with no end. They continue to attack us. They keep scaring us, but we will resist. I'm going to work now. Of course, we hide and look for a safe space to shelter. We're scared for our lives.
The southern city of Zaporizhia also faced a new round of Russian missile attacks. A worker at this garage was killed and the building destroyed.
It's hard to express with words. We're mourning one of our co-workers, and our company is gone. 50 people are now without a job, and another company nearby has been destroyed too.
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy asked a snap meeting of G7 leaders for more air defense capabilities and to put even more pressure on Russia.
For this new wave of terror, there must be a new wave of accountability for Russia, new sanctions, new forms of political pressure, and new forms of support for Ukraine.
Russia says it does not target civilians, but the broken windows and destroyed homes are proof of the devastation Ukrainian people are enduring.
I got an update a little earlier from DW's Fanny Fachar, who is in Kiev, following the latest air raid alerts in the Ukrainian capital.
Certainly another sleepless night for many people here in Kiev City as they were waking up to air raid alerts shortly after 2 a.m. in the morning and after 5 a.m. again. And obviously the difference this time around compared to the air raid alerts just before Monday, before all of this happened, this large-scale attack on various parts of Ukraine and the heart of Kiev City, before that people really kind of wanted to overhear these air raid alerts and just go about their normal lives. Now when you hear it, you really, including my team, jump out of your bed, go to the nearby shelter and try to come up with a plan when is it safe enough to return actually to your room. So people are, of course, worn down by this, but by what they call and refer to more increasingly as terrorism, as a form of terrorism, because civilians who just simply want to go about their normal lives cannot do so, especially since Monday, since really this entire war has entered a new phase in the eyes of so many who so far in places like Kiev City thought that here more or less things are certain when it comes to the question of safety.
Now, the Russian airstrikes we've seen in the last couple of days have seriously damaged Ukrainian energy infrastructure. How do people in Kyiv see the coming weeks playing out as temperatures are obviously going to get colder?
People are concerned and they want to be prepared. So we are seeing that people are buying generators, they are getting more blankets, sleeping bags in case they need to resort to the metro station again, be it because of the air raid, but also be it because they simply have no heating and they're hoping that maybe in the metro station at least it's a bit warmer. In fact, the Ukrainian government has told people to switch those lights off if it's not necessary, not use things like the washing machine or any of these appliances, because you just do not know how much energy actually is there left in Ukraine to keep this country running. So it's a different sense of urgency here. While at the same time, for example, Foreign Minister Kuleba has accused Russia of, quote, war crimes by deliberately attacking these energy infrastructure in many parts of the country. And something I would like to point out here, of course, it's one thing if you have no energy in big cities like Kiev, but again, even a worse picture in a village that completely depends maybe on one power grid that is supplying various villages with energy. So here at least you kind of have a different social network system so people can help each other. That's a bit different and more limited, for example, in villages in the country.
Fanny, thank you. That's Fanny Fachar reporting from Kiev. Now, Ukraine has confirmed that it's received the first unit of a German-made air defence system. Germany plans to eventually dispatch 3 or 4 of the systems, and the US is expected to follow suit with additional advanced air defence systems. Now, the Iris-T surface-launched missile has been part of Germany's air defence network since 2017. Analysts say it has a range of 40 kilometres and can take down aircraft, missiles and drones. Ukraine hopes a system like the Iris can shield civilians and its own forces from air attacks. And I'm joined now by Thomas Wiegold. He's a journalist specialising in defence and security issues. A very warm welcome to DW. How much of a difference will the delivery of the German-made air defence systems actually make in battle?
Well, the Ukrainian defense minister called it a new era, and we have to be a bit cautious about that because it's a sophisticated system, it's a modern system, but just one system will not make such a difference. It can provide the air defense for one city, but that's it. So Ukraine needs a lot more of these systems. And if I may correct you in one point, this modern system has not been introduced in Germany as yet. So it's the first time this comes into a real combat situation. It has been sold to Egypt, a smaller version to Sweden, and Norway is under consideration. But so far, this system is so new, it hasn't really been tested.
Now, the Ukrainian president is saying that air defence is his #1 priority, but is focusing on air defence the best way to fend off Russia's attacks? Or should international assistance be focusing on something different?
Well, in the current situation, quite obviously, air defense is what Ukraine needs, and it needs it fast. We have to remember the German system, Iris-T SLM, has been promised by Chancellor Olaf Scholz already in June, but it took 4 months to deliver. The same is with the US-Norwegian system, so-called NASAMS, the same which got the White House, actually. These systems have been promised by the US, but it also takes months to deliver. It's an item which is in short supply in the West as well. So if Zelenskyy says this is our #1 priority, he is right. But I fear no one is really in the situation to fulfill this obligation rather fast.
I might ask you at this point, actually, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Europe's weapons stockpile is being depleted because of Ukraine. So should we be worrying that weapons deliveries to Ukraine are actually making EU nations vulnerable?
At the moment, I'd say yes. It mostly depends on how fast Western nations are willing to order new supplies. And this is partially a question of money, of bureaucratic process. Some countries did it already, talking about artillery ammunition, for instance. The Dutch have ordered for almost 2 billion euros ammunition in Germany. So some countries are stocking up, others not yet, but they all will have to.
One last question, Mr. Wiegold. Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. The question, of course, everyone's asking, is President Putin likely to use it?
Well, actually, no one really can tell, except Mr. Putin himself, of course. It seems reassuring a bit that the US, who have a close eye on this, say they they see no reason to change their nuclear posture. So the possibility remains, but the signs, despite the rhetoric, are not here yet.
Thomas Wiegold, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.